Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and call to order this April 18th regular Board of Education meeting. Please join me in rising for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So we have our student council report.
Anthony's here tonight.
Oh,
yep.
Anthony Fusco will be here speaking for Sarah this evening.
All right, there's Anthony.
There he is. Thank you, Anthony. Take your time. It's all good.
All right. So, yeah, we're good. Okay. Good evening. So, Somers High School has had many successful student life events since the last board meeting. The spring musical production of The Wedding Singer was very successful. The band, orchestra, and choir held a movie concert on March 29th and collected donations for the STAR Scholarship. The GSA's Day of Silence in protest against LGBTQ plus violence and harassment in schools was recently this April 14th. Peer leaders held the Somers Peer Leadership Bake-Off on April 13th, which had a great turnout. AP Lang students recently visited New York City and took a walking tour of 1920s and Prohibition-era New York, which aligned with their studying of The Great Gatsby. And just today, the school hosted a spelling bee competition during lunch, and a lot of students came to cheer on their peers. And in terms of upcoming events, we have a lot planned. The Festival of Arts is being held on April 27th from 7 to 9 p.m. at the high school. There is a Peer Leadership Color Run on May 5th. There are environmental club events for Earth Week. Ferris Bueller's Day Off movie nights are hosted by Peer Leadership tomorrow and Thursday. The NHS induction ceremony is tomorrow in the auditorium. The musical company announced the date for their annual Broadway in concert, which is May 12th. The IB English course is going to see A Doll's House on Broadway tomorrow in conjunction with the Year 2 class having studied the play. To celebrate National Poetry Month, the English Honor Society has posted poems on the walls of the high school. The annual Yom HaShoah Holocaust Remembrance Ceremony will take place Thursday night at North Salem High School. And finally, the Science Honor Society is hosting a science convention at the middle school on April 25th. And that's just student life. We got more. Counseling, we have quarter 3 ended March 29th. The high school wellness teams wrapped up spring DBT lessons. Counselors completed the 10th grade career programs and are now in the process of visiting classes to complete senior surveys. With the completion of the spring co-vitality social emotional screener, our student wellness teams are completing individual student support conversations. Co-vitality reports will be posted to the the campus backpack next week. Please keep an eye out for the notification of that posting. 9th, 10th, and 11th grade students selected their courses for the next year, and that information can be found in the Infinite Campus backpacks. AP and IB exams coming up in the next few weeks. Yikes. PTA held a principal's coffee with Mr. Bayer last Thursday, and the last one for the year is May 4th at 7 p.m. On May 4th, we will be hosting a financial planning for college night at SMS at 7 p.m., and more information will be going out to families later this week. Student Council, the executive board hosted the Seniors Citizens Brunch, which was March 26th. Battle of the Bands is this Friday, April 21st at 7 p.m. We are planning for a Teacher Appreciation Week, which is May 8th to 12th. And we recently were recognized as a National Gold Council of Excellence. So that's pretty cool. Class boards, the senior events, prom information is out to parents and Six Flags and whatnot. Sophomore class is planning a volleyball tournament May 19th, and junior class is just getting ready for next year. So that's it.
Thanks, Anthony.
Thank you.
Okay, board. I was wondering if it's all right. We have a number of folks here tonight. We are going to go ahead, and our athletic director is here this evening, Mark Haddam. And so we're going to spend a few minutes on just doing some recognitions from the winner. If that's okay, Mr. Haddam, if you walk us through this evening. Thank you.
You know, I was I was coming here tonight, and it felt a little odd to give out winter awards in April. And then I was thinking it also felt a little odd to give out fall awards. I think I did it in December. And then I thought it's really a compliment to our programs, because there is no off season in Somers. Between the amount of male and female athletes and teams that we send to state championships, to regional championships, and what an accomplishment and what a great turnout. you're looking at just you're looking at some wonderful kids that work at their craft. So it's nice to see everybody. I'm going to start with our Scholar Athlete Team Awards. Scholar Athlete Team Awards are given to those teams that have at least 75% of the members of the team with a 90 or above. I think about our track team. It's basically about 10% of our schools, so that's a pretty impressive accomplishment from them. So I'm going to go down the first up, and if the coaches are here, I'd like you to just come up and accept the Scholar Athlete Team Award. First, our Somers High School boys swim team, Coach Brittany Paisano. We are a merged team at North Salem and John Jay Cross River for Somers, for skiing. Our skiing team is not here, but our skiing team won their Scholar Athlete Team Award. The next, I don't believe ice hockey is here this evening. Our ice hockey team won a Scholar Athlete Team Award. This one is actually a really cool one. I know Coach Tetro is here. Coach, if I could ask you to come up and accept the award for the bowling team. Come on up, Coach. And if I could ask Coach to stay. Coach, the inaugural bowling season here at Somers High School, and it's a lot to coach any sport, but as a first-year coach starting a program, it is certainly a lot. And when Coach Tetro walked in the door, and he put a lot of work to getting this thing started this year. So congrats to you, and thank you for all you did for our student athletes and getting that program up and running this year. So thank you, Coach Tetro. Gymnastics here? No? Okay. Girls basketball, I know I spoke to Coach Mallon. He's on the baseball field right now, so I'll make sure to hand him that. Boys basketball, I know Coach is not here. We'll speak about boys basketball in a little bit. The aforementioned boys indoor track and field team is Coach Lacko here. Coach?
It's all right. It's just different.
And finally, our girls indoor track and field team, Coach Veg is here. Coach. Our coaches stand at the far end because they were in shape, so they don't mind the walkover. So we appreciate that, Coach. Now we're going to get to our league champions. This one I actually should have had Coach Veg stay over. Coach, I'll ask you to stay over. Our girls track team, come on over, Coach, has now won 24 consecutive winter track, and yes, please, ladies, 24 consecutive championships, league championships, which is It's a wild accomplishment. In my first year, when they told me that, I looked them in the eye and said, come on, guys, stop. I know I'm new, but don't pull my leg. 24, and if there's a team that doesn't exemplify the culture more than our track program here, due to Coach Veg and we'll honor Coach Lacko and all they do, and the young ladies up here, I had a blast watching them run this year. So another league championship. If they're not up here next year, I'll go back and rethink the 24 years in a row, but something tells me they will be. So congratulations for everything. Thank you, Coach. Thank you, ladies. I believe it's now 23 championships since 1998 for our boys track program. So Coach Lacko, gentlemen, you want to come on up and accept this award? They dress up nice, too. Thank you, guys, for coming. Thank you. Congratulations on another great season. Thank you. Thank you. Unfortunately, our head coach, Chris DeCintio of our varsity basketball team, is not here. He had his son's birthday. I'm going to take a minute. I invited Coach. He couldn't be here. Coach is leaving us after 14 years here at Somers. He's coached over 20 years between Ryan Somers. He had such a wonderful year this year, and I wish he couldn't be here, because I reached out and said, Chris, you deserve the honor for all you've done for our community, our boys. Unfortunately, Chris is moving on, and he's going to watch his daughter play basketball. They did not, the special part of this story is the boys did not win a league championship since 1998, and this was their first league championship. Actually, their captains are here. So Dylan and Matt, why don't you come up and accept for Coach? But in a public setting, we'd like to wish nothing but the very best to Coach DeCintio for everything he's done in this community, and these two fine gentlemen for captaining our basketball team this year that had a historic season. So thank you, guys. And finally, I don't think Coach Sepoy is here, but our girls gymnastics team also won a division and a section championship this year. So this will go to our gymnastics team. We're going to get to a few individuals very quickly. We had a young man score his 1,000th point on the basketball court this year, which is a major accomplishment. It's even more so when you're a all-state quarterback and the play of the year in New York State at quarterback, that you could also do this in another sport. So Matt is going on and graduating, but we'll miss him at Somers High School, and I wanted to congratulate Matt for scoring his 1,000th point this year. Come on. Is Georgia Nikos here? Thank you, Mr. Nikos. I think Georgia was on a college visit. Yes. So thank you for the reminder. I wanted, and I said send Dad, because this should be a proud moment for Georgia. Georgia competed in the New York State Championship in the vault. Georgia's such a great kid. We have a merged gymnastics team, and when I started this year, I realized there was no way to get in touch with any of the other 8 schools that we're merged with. So I called Georgia down to the office one day. I said, Georgia, you got to help. Georgia basically turned into our coach that was in the school every day, and I got to know Georgia. She would come down often to the gymnastics, the athletic office, and we built a relationship and getting to know her. I'm sure you're very proud of your daughter. She's a wonderful gymnast. You go watch her perform, and there's just happiness and a charisma, right? And I wish she was here tonight, but if we could ask Dad to come up and accept the award for Georgia, that would be awesome. Dad might need to do a split now that he has the awards. Thank you, Mr. Nikos. The next state finalist that I'd like to call up is Andrew Fasone. Andrew, here. Very quick story about Andrew. Come stand over here, Andrew. I went to the Armory on a Sunday night in January, and I was invited by some of the track parents to come watch, to meet with them, and we were sitting up there, and our boys were running the 4x200, I believe. And they were tied, or maybe even trailing, before Andrew took the baton as the last runner. And it was one of these races that just captivated you. And it was the first time I got to see our boys at the Armory this winter. And actually, you guys were behind. And Andrew, it was a phenomenal just performance. Took off and won that race, and I saw firsthand what the talk about Andrew was and his special ability as a sprinter. Andrew's a young man that's played soccer for us. He's got a world of ability, still figuring that out in terms of what the future. We've had some good conversations what the future looks like, but he's a really special young man that works hard at his craft, and it's good to see you succeed. So congratulations, Andrew. Ryan Ball here. Come on over, Ryan. Stand here. It's a great tie. Everyone see that tie? It's a great tie. So I'm going to start this off with a defeat. I saw Ryan. I went up to watch Ryan compete at the Eastern State Invitationals, which is one of the top tournaments on the whole East Coast. And Ryan, I remember he suffered a tough defeat that day, and we came back, and I called Coach DeSanto. I said, Coach, how's Ryan doing? He said, you'll see. He's going to be just fine. Ryan does this 12 months a year. He's a 12-month-a-year wrestler, tremendous dedication to the sport. And I remember watching Ryan that day and know he was disappointed. Ryan took that, used it, went on to be a top 12 finisher in New York State as a freshman. The best thing that I heard when I spoke to Coach DeSanto about Ryan is all the accolades aside, all division, all county, 12th in the state, the whole thing. But I remember Coach DeSanto saying to me, Ryan, that you are an unbelievable teammate, and I think we can all agree that's where we want to be as you move forward in the future. So keep working hard on the mat and keep being a leader on the mat, and I'm sure we'll be seeing you up here again in the near future. So congratulations on a great year. And finally, is Jay Wilkinson here somewhere? Where is Jay? Come on up, Jay. So I was joking with Joan Tippett today in the office. I said the only setback with Jay's grades this year was probably caused by me, because I had to call him down to the office so many times for all the awards and accolades that he earned. Jay was recently named the Putnam Examiner Male Winter Athlete of the Year. He won the Con Edison Award, which, as we know, is a very prestigious award here in Westchester County. Jay competed in the butterfly at the New York State Championships. Jay also came in 4th in New York State as a diver. Jay had a unbelievable year to compete in the New York State Championships as a swimmer and diver. Right? It's think about it. It tells you a lot of what you know. Jay's off to Tufts, and he's going to do wonderful things. Somers High School is a better place because Jay Wilkinson is in the hallway. So we'd like to congratulate Jay for all you've done, and best of luck in the future, Jay. That wraps it up. I'm hoping I'm back here maybe in July, August, based on the results of the spring season. Thank you all, and thank you to our coaches and student athletes for coming out tonight. We appreciate all of you, all that you do, and have a great night, everybody.
Board, if it's okay if we just take maybe a 3-minute break, and we'll just say hello to the athletes and their families, and then we'll reconvene. Just about 3 minutes, okay, Paul? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Board, for letting us go ahead and do that. Again, I know, like Mr. Haddam was saying, that we typically get this a little closer to the winter, but just with some other scheduling conflicts, this was what we could do. So thanks for letting us spend the time. So thank you.
Yeah, of course. We wanted to make sure that they could get home in time to do homework and get everything together. All right, folks, so we are at the public comment section. So any of the members of the community that wish to make a public comment specifically related to the agenda items, which you can see here is the proposed budget summary, report on fiscal stewardship, as well as several of the committee reports and miscellaneous board actions, may go ahead and do so now. Please go to the podium, state your name. As a reminder, we have a 30-minute max, limit 3 minutes per person. We are not naming district employees or students or identified by name or situation. I think that's all. Any written statements you'd like to give to the district clerk would be perfect. And if you want to write your name down so that we can make sure that the right person gets back to you based on your comment, that would be very helpful. Thanks.
Ring the bell, 3 minutes, I hope. But I'm a member of the Citizen Finance Committee, so I just thought I'd take a few minutes and just give my perspective over the course of the last 6 months on some of the budget developments that went into this. So the frequency of meetings and things of that. I think we met with Dr. Blanche and team and Chris over 5 times this year alone. So the in-depth discussions and the frequency of the meetings are more substantial this year, given inflation and things that are going on. The other thing is the committee, just so people know, it's a citizen finance committee, diverse group of folks on there. We have a couple of lawyers, CPA that's a partner in a firm. We have someone that's done extensive years in IBM and research. Myself, I'm in industry on budgeting and doing things like that day to day. So I'm a financial executive in the industry. In thinking about the budgets, I guess first and foremost, I think a lot of thought was put into the community. I think inflation is hitting everyone hard in this economic environment, and so one of the things at the front and center was how do we minimize the impact to our residents. And so as you look at the budget, I think there's $665,000 spending below the cap. So I was pleasantly surprised about that. I think Chris can probably talk more about what that means in terms of a percentage. But if you put it in perspective, over 5 years, it's a $3.3 million savings. Over 10 years, over $6 million. So the fiscal management there I thought was very positive, given the environment we're in. It is a difficult environment. It's a difficult environment for our citizens who own houses. It's also a challenge, I think, for the management team here. As you look at the budgets, we have over 53 acres that we're trying to manage, over 600,000 square feet of building space, and that in itself has a lot of inflationary challenges within it. The other thing is, it's in a service business, right? So each of the kids, there's so many things that go into transporting, bringing, servicing the kids throughout day to day. And I think when you look at these budgets, I was pleasantly surprised as a resident on some of the outcomes that are being achieved with this. So it's fiscally responsible, but has a lot of benefits on the impact to the society. How did you mitigate some of this inflationary increases? I think a lot of it's been through proactive decision making. Full-time employees retiring or leaving the district, they're not being replaced, right? Because our population is going down a little bit, and so we're trying to monetize and be fiscally responsible in those areas. The other thing is creative solutions. So in the buildings, we have some excess capacity. The management team has been able to turn that into rental income, where BOCES can rent some of that space. So that helps kind of mitigate some of these inflationary increases. And then, more importantly, I think, is decision-making along the way. In 2021, for example, the community voted to do...
Apologies for interrupting. You're at 3 minutes. I just want to be consistent with folks. If you have a written that you'd like to share with the district, if you want to just finish up whatever your thought was. And then...
I'll finish up. So I guess I'll make one last comment. So we're here for the kids. We're here for the services. A few things that keep going on with this. They implemented a kindergarten program. Young families can come into town, put their kids in, get that service. There's no financial impact. And I'll stop there. I want to be respectful of time here. But I guess just from my perspective, Dr. Blanche, I'd like to congratulate you and Chris. I do think, in this inflationary environment and the challenges we have, I was pleasantly surprised again with the outcome and the proposed budget. So,
thank you. Any other members of the public wish to make a public comment? All right, it looks like we are moving on to the central office report, beginning with the budget summary.
All right, how's that? Good, all right. Yep. So we'll go ahead and start. The first number of slides here again are a rewind back to where we were starting through the year. So we'll go ahead and walk this through. I'll go ahead and just hit the contents page here as we walk through the development process and proposed budget, revenues, expenditures, and the financial aid and the inflationary factors. And kick that back over to you, Chris, and I'll join with you back and forth a little bit.
Sure. As we've gone through this entire process, we started at the beginning of this school year. We're now all the way down to step 4, April budget board adoption. Again, all leading to a May 16th budget vote and trustee election. And as the previous speaker was just on, he is part of that Citizens Finance Committee, who is one of the stakeholders that we do meet with quite frequently during the budget development process, again, along with PTA, Council, Board of Ed, obviously, Building Administration, and many others. Again, this slide is just a reminder that the budget must be balanced. So you have your largest revenues on the left here, property taxes, state aid, sales tax, and then your largest expenses, salaries and benefits, transportation, debt service, and utilities. So for the 23-24 proposed budget, we're looking at a total budget of $106,228,824, just over a 5% annual increase. You'll see one of the largest increases in revenue, non-property taxes. Again, that's going to be driven by our state aid that we saw a significant increase. I'll get in a little bit more detail again on the next slide here, but you'll see a little over $3 million increase in those non-property tax revenue. Again, that's state aid and also sales tax that we get from Westchester County. And then as far as the tax levy increase, you'll see it's going up about 2.8%. Don't know why the max levy is not showing on this slide, but the maximum tax cap calculation is 3.59%, but we are coming in at 2.8%, and that's the roughly $665,000 less than the allowable levy limit this year. And that translates to an estimated tax rate that we're looking at a 1.97% increase. If we did go to that maximum tax levy, it'd be about a 2.72% increase for the tax rate. There's the maximum tax levy number popping up on the screen, 3.59%. So this next couple pie charts showing the anticipated revenue at the top and then anticipated expenditures at the bottom. This can also be found in the public budget document. So a couple of the bullets on the left side trying to show that the local revenue share, so the property taxes, back a few years ago in 2017-18 accounted for just over 86% of the overall budget. That number for 23-24 now is dropping below 82%. Where is that money being made up? You can see on the right side, state aid share back in 2017-18 was just over 11%, and now state aid share again for 23-24 is approaching 15%. Again, I've talked about it a few times here. The reason for that is because the state a couple years ago decided to finally fully phase in foundation aid based on the formula. So now Somers is receiving what it's entitled to the way the formula is currently written. For many years, I'd say over a decade before that, Somers and many other districts throughout the state were not receiving their fair share of foundational aid from the state. The state had a budget gap, so they instituted a gap elimination adjustment, and that hit school districts for many years. Again, luckily, a few years ago, the state enacted to fully phase that in over the last couple of years. So the last 2 or 3 years, we've been receiving additional state aid from there. And this will be the last year that now we're fully caught up to where we should be.
But they're not going to be funding retroactively what they had
No,
on us.
we will not be seeing the approximately, I'll say maybe $30 million or so that we did not receive over the past, say, decade or so.
But we can expect to have the same funding at the same level moving forward.
Moving
yeah?
forward, yes. Yep, this will be kind of our base now going forward.
Yeah.
And it's exciting to see that it's finally fully funded. I know it was years of advocacy work.
Yes,
Yeah.
many
To
years.
get it up
Yep.
there.
And then on the anticipated expenditures down below, some of the largest ones obviously are instruction, and then you have special education. Some of the numbers that are going into this instructional budget include general education teachers, teaching assistants, monitors, our B.O.E tech program, librarians, counselors, and some of the larger costs that go into special education are your special ed teachers, speech, OT, tuition and maintenance for out-of-district students, and then also our ESY program, our extended school year program that the general fund does pick up a portion. The state does contribute a large percentage of that program, but the general fund is responsible for the rest. So. I've had a few questions on foundation aid, so I did just want to bring up the actual formula itself. There's quite a bit of different variables that go into it. One of the driving factors that we saw a larger increase in foundation aid, aside from it being fully phased in and us receiving what we're supposed to receive now, also the consumer price index is taken into account into this formula. So for the state in this formula, it's not capped at that 2% that we are capped at for our tax levy calculation. That's why we saw, and many districts saw, a much bigger increase this year in foundational aid compared to what we were even expecting because of the fully phased-in amount. It was because the consumer price index boosted that number up even more than it was initially thought to do so.
Chris, can you just clarify the foundation aid? So that's the money that the state gives school districts. And are there any strings attached to that? Or is it just to be used for the foundational expenses of the school district?
There's no, say, strings attached. There's no specific programs that we have to run or anything like that.
Okay.
It's all tied to, all the different elements that go into this. We have your enrollment, your English language learners, your population that's on free and reduced price lunch. All that gets factored into here, but there's no specific programs or anything else that we must do in order to receive this foundation aid.
Okay, so the money we receive for the preschool, that's designated specifically for the UPK program.
Correct.
But that's not part of the foundation
Not part
aid,
of foundation aid, yep,
Okay.
totally separate. And yeah, that UPK preschool money is specifically just for that.
Okay, thank
Some
you.
of the items that were mentioned are items that we are mandated by the state to provide, right? So if a free and reduced lunch is not optional, it's something that we're mandated by the state. So in the sense that that's earmarked, I suppose that would, right?
Sure, I guess if you want to maybe consider that I wouldn't consider that a string attached to it. It's just
No,
part of
I'm
the
just saying
formula.
that,
Yeah.
Right, it's accounted for. So we
Yes.
don't have entirely, it's not discretionary funding.
Right.
Is it possible to ask you, since you did go through the trouble of making this lovely chart for us, of just
I
briefly
did not
talk-
make this chart, just so you
Sorry?
know. I did not make this chart,
Oh.
just so you know.
I'm not going to bother you to talk us through it, but is there
Yeah.
some narrative that you might share just so that community members might understand?
I can certainly
Or
go. I don't know if this is the time or the place to kind of go through all of the different elements that are on here. But I think I maybe used the example last time. Some of the stuff that goes into this is the wealth index for the district. So if someone happens to hit the Powerball, it's going to have an impact on this formula because it's going to increase the wealth of the district. There's many different aspects you can see here that go into this formula.
Thank you.
One of the things that we've talked about a few times here is the rate of inflation. As I just kind of mentioned with that consumer price index going up about 8%. Again, with the tax levy cap calculation, we're capped at that CPI number or 2%, whichever is less. So obviously this year we were forced to use that 2% number in our calculation. So kind of the purpose of this slide is to show our budget back in 2017-18 was just over 88 million. Based on inflation, the equivalent purchasing power for this upcoming budget would be about a little over 108 million. Today's prices, I'm sure everybody is aware, are much higher than they were even just a few years ago. So what we're trying to show here is, yes, the equivalent buying power of our budget even just 5 years ago, we're still coming in just over $2 million less than what inflation says our budget should be. So I think it's just to try to highlight that we're trying to be, fiscally responsible, and we're trying to get more kind of bang for our buck here as much as possible. Some of the inflationary numbers are really hurting us as far as utilities are concerned, and even just paper in the district has skyrocketed. So there's there's certain aspects that are really having an impact on the budget, but we're still trying to maintain the current levels that we have been for many years. This slide again is just talking about the contingency budget. Again, if the budget did not pass, we have the option. There's 3 different options that we have. We can simply resubmit the same budget for another budget vote in June. We can revise that budget and then submit that revised budget for a vote in June. Or we can go straight to a contingency budget And what that means is that there's no tax levy increase from the prior year. So you'll see what that does to the budget. It drops it by approximately $2.3 million. I talked about it last time. The bulk of that is going to come from personnel. There's only so many, there's certain equipment expenditures and repairs that need to come out of the budget, and then the rest to make up that, over $2 million is going to come from personnel, and that's going to have an impact on, obviously, staffing and programs for the children, so.
And class sizes.
And class sizes. Then this next couple slides are again on the capital reserve fund that was established last year by the voters. They approved it up to $10 million, and the majority of that is for athletic facility upgrades. We now have $7 million in that fund, so we're now we're asking the voters to approve us accessing those funds to upgrade those athletic facilities that we've talked about. And then some of those upgrades include 6 new tennis courts at the high school, softball. We'll be turfing that entire field at Primrose, turfing the entire baseball field at the high school, and then some additional track and field upgrades to some of the throwing areas. And then in order to get some additional building aid on the project, we have to do some work inside the building. So we've identified certain areas of the high school and Primrose that we'll be looking at, like ceiling tile replacements that are still from the old section of the buildings to upgrade some of that.
And just to be clear, these fields are not just used for the sports teams in particular. They'll be used for all the kids from both the schools and the community at large as well, right?
Yep, will be available for the community at large. I know for the high school, the physical education department is excited to have tennis courts on the campus because they can teach that and then incorporate that into their lessons. At Primrose, it's going to be a nice little field that they'll have access to, where if it rained the day before, instead of having to stay on the blacktop, now they can go out to that field because it'll be available to play and you won't get full of mud. So something that they can look forward to, and that includes our smallest of children from the UPK program as well.
And just clarifying for anybody who hadn't realized last year voters approved kind of overwhelmingly the reserve fund specifically for these improvements.
Yes.
And so we created the reserve fund, we have the funds in it now. And so this year, in order to be able to spend the money to actually make those improvements that everybody wanted the reserve fund for, now the voters have to vote to approve the spending of the money.
Correct. Yep.
And so if for some reason they chose not to allow that, the money is still allocated specifically for this.
The money would still be allocated in this capital reserve fund, which was established essentially for these athletic facility upgrades, and then some other potential paving and concrete work that we'd probably look to tie into our next bond project.
Okay.
Where it's kind of similar to the safety and security project, where we had to bond some of that money, and then we also had a little over $3 million left in our capital reserve fund, the prior capital reserve fund for that. Mm-hmm. So that allowed us to not bond $3 million and not pay interest on $3 million for the next 15 years.
Okay.
And this isn't new money. This is money that has already been raised by the school district, and we're putting it into this fund specific.
Yep, not new money. This money is kind of like a savings account that we've been able to, over the last year or so, put into this. We did a transfer a few months ago to get this up to that $7 million. So it's not any additional funds that are being asked for from the voters. It's already there.
If for some reason we couldn't spend it this year and had to put it up for a vote again next year or something like that, are there any negative consequences financially if we had to do that?
I'd say delaying a project a year you've seen the numbers with inflation, is just going to drive up that cost, and we'll get even less, as I said, kind of bang for our buck.
Mm-hmm.
So we might not be able to do everything that we have even on this slide right here if we, delay it a year or whatever time frame that is.
But the budget is based on the prices now, the costs.
Right. There's a built-in kind of inflationary piece because we started kind of looking at this a year, more than a year ago when we started to establish that capital reserve fund. So our architects do build in an inflationary piece into that, but some of those numbers are going higher than I think they've even anticipated, a year and a half ago.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so the timing is important.
Of course.
Okay.
And it saves us money not to have to borrow the money to do this.
Of course.
project.
Yes, absolutely. And then the last slide here is just the upcoming Board of Ed meeting dates and budget topics. So again, tonight is the budget adoption, and then May 2nd is the public budget hearing. And again, May 16th is the budget vote and trustee election. And as you can see, there's 2 open seats, and there are 4 candidates that are listed there. Dominic DiMartino, Pat Farbero, Thomasine Mastrantoni, and Daryl Mundis. That is on the slide that is up on the website. So, and that's it.
Thank you to the 4 people who are running for the board. We appreciate you.
Thanks, Chris. So as Chris just kind of shifts his devices here, we're going to go ahead, and this is the next staple of our updated Forward and Excellence report, the Elements of Excellence pieces, where Chris will dive in there on the fiscal stewardship piece. As the board may recall, starting last summer and through the fall, we spent hours working with our school community as well as large community to come out with those different elements, and this is our kind of our first go around with this updated fiscal stewardship element. And so I'll go ahead and turn over to Chris. We've got a little embedded video in here. We're going to see if that goes tonight. Now, you have the PDF, so we won't have seen the piece there, but this will be what's up on the site and things. So, Chris?
Yep. So fiscal stewardship here, the few things we wanted to highlight here, 4 buildings, over 600,000 square feet. We're serving over 190,000 lunches each year, driving over 680,000 miles each year. Then off to the right here, we have our energy performance contract that we did. We're still wrapping up. There's still a few items that are, actually there's a few unit ventilators that were delivered today to the intermediate school that have been delayed for months due to shipping concerns and issues. But again, this energy performance contract allowed us to replace some of these old boilers, like on the left side of this photo, and replace them with more energy efficient boilers on the right side of the photo. One of the biggest things, utility costs of fuel, electric, have gone up considerably. So this has helped us with some cost avoidance. If we didn't do this project, our expenses would be going up even more. But now with these more energy efficient boilers and lighting, it'll help reduce the usage and fuel usage and kilowatt usage for electric, and kind of bring keep our electric bill and utility bills in check. But it would have been worse if we did not replace these aging equipment. Then on this slide, we have some of the full-time equivalent FTE that we are not replacing due to attrition. And again, that is mostly at our high school, as that enrollment number starts to decline. In the elementary schools and the middle school, we've started to kind of get as low as we might get as far as enrollment. And now it's kind of trickling up to the high school. So we'll see some more of these FTE reductions over the next few years as people retire, and we don't look to replace it just because we don't need to due to the class sizes now. As we just kind of talked about at the end of the last slide there, reserve accounts, our capital reserve account that we're looking for, asking the voters to approve us accessing $7 million. We also, as I mentioned, we did about a little over $3 million from our reserve account for our safety and security project a few years ago, which then allowed us to not have to bond that money and, again, not have to pay interest on that money. Our UPK program that we did put in last January. We started with a half-year program, and now this year, that was with 1 class in January, and now this year we're running 2 classes. In the fall of '23, we're looking to run 4 classes. So we've continuously tried to get as many classes as we can up in Primrose for that. And I'll see if this video does work here.
He comes home every day. He's like the happiest kid. He's counting to 100. It's it's actually life-changing. He came into UPK nervous, ambivalent to learning. He didn't know any of his letters or numbers, and he has matured tremendously over the last 9 months or so. He loves coming to school. He's so happy, and he's ready to be in kindergarten. He knows all of his letters with all of his counts, and he's made like the best friends here. He comes in, he unpacks, they do their morning packet, and then they sit on the rug, and he gets to go to the gym, he gets to go on the playground, he gets to go to the cafeteria and order lunch. So he loves it, and we just love the fact that he's already in Primrose, and he's ready to make that transition.
All right, and then at the very bottom here, we did talk about some revenue opportunities that we do rent out some space to B.O.E.s. We've partnered with them, and that generates about $145,000 in revenue each year. So this next one is showing, one of our indicators that we have here for the fiscal stewardship element of excellence is we want to stay within a standard deviation of the average spent on per pupil expenditure in the Putnam, Northern Westchester, BOCES districts. So you can see here, Putnam, Northern Westchester, BOCES districts, just over $32,500 per student. We're slightly higher than that at $33,400 a student. The standard deviation for those districts is $4,175. So we're well within that standard deviation, and that's kind of what we're going to use as our kind of metric kind of moving forward.
Chris, can you talk us through what actually goes into that number, how that number is calculated?
So this number is based on enrollment and size of budget. That's kind of what they're looking at for this one in particular.
Enrollment, total enrollment, and total size of the budget?
Yeah.
So not the instructional part of the budget, but the entirety of the budget?
Entirety of the budget.
So if you were just to use the instructional side of the budget, which is theoretically student-facing, that would give us a different number than this.
That would give us a different number, yeah. And, there are districts that have varying costs associated with some of the stuff that they do. There are some districts that don't have transportation, so they don't have that expenditure. So it's a hard, it's a tough comparison sometimes to say you're comparing apples to apples, as many districts are doing things a little bit differently and have things a little bit different than every other district. But this is just one of the metrics that we've identified that we want to just try to use moving forward.
So for instance, if we remember from the other slide deck, you don't have to go there, but where there were the pie charts of the percent of the total budget, instructional was around 73%, right? Instructional and
that was salaries and benefits. Correct. Were, yeah, so that was actually in this one.
Oh, sorry. So if you were to take that and divide the number of total enrolled students, that number would go down, correct? That per pupil cost?
Yeah. Yep.
And then similarly, if you were then to compartmentalize and pull out BOCES and special education or all those additional services that are provided to certain students but not to all students, it still would change this number even further. Is that right?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Again, the bottom number here, maximum tax levy limit history, as we've tried to show over the past few years, we've stayed below the maximum tax cap requiring a simple majority, and by doing that, we've saved, we've been under that tax cap limit by about $2.6 million. So that is $2.6 million, again, that we have not levied over the past 4 or 5 years. That also then, kind of moving forward, that's $2.6 million that we're not going to be levying next year or the following year or the year after that. This is moving forward, we will not be raising that money. So that's $2.6 million, you can say, every year that we will not be asking the community to contribute to. And then the last part here on responsible planning. Right now we're talking about our capital reserve fund that we're looking to have the voters vote on in May, and a couple years down the road in May of 2025 we're going to look to have the voters approve a larger bond project for the district that's going to have many different areas, and the reason in a couple years is because we have some debt falling off from our 2008 capital project that we asked the voters to approve a bond project for, so that debt service is falling off. So we're looking to bring something on to maintain that level debt for many years to come. So some of the stuff we're looking at here, update learning spaces, even outdoor spaces, different community spaces, and this will also include some of the paving and concrete work that is going to be needed throughout the district. We know that alone will be in, millions of dollars worth of paving and concrete work. So I think that's something that, again, we're going to be asking for the voters in 2025 May, but we've already started that process to look to see what we actually, what kind of projects will be included in there.
I think that last line on slide 29 is pretty important as well.
Sure, that each dollar invested in schools, we've seen an increase of about $20 in home values. And again, this community has shown that, it wants to invest in its schools. The schools, it is not a 7-hour day here in Somers. These buildings are open till the wee hours of the night. Doesn't seem like they ever stop, and even on the weekends, it's still going. So, and I think our community gets a very good use out of our schools for the entire year, including the summer.
Chris, I know just on that one piece there too, I think you reiterating that, as that other bond comes on, no increase in property taxes there. So that's a key piece that will stay inside of that allowment. And again, I appreciate looking at the overall part here. And you did say it. I'm always surprised at how much when you add that paving and concrete and hardscape, it will add. That's going to be a big portion of that. Safety and security measures as well in there too. So thank you very much, Kristen. Report looked good for the first time around on the fiscal stewardship. So thanks.
Yeah, no, nice work, Chris. This is a good presentation and putting everything together. Just thank goodness we got those boilers and everything, all the energy efficiency stuff done now.
Very good timing.
We could not have timed it better. And nice job getting that done, pretty much near zero cost, or all the different, funding that we got on that. But no, this is good. Thank you.
And all the interest we saved by having it bonded, Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Maybe I'll add a few things. I echo to Nick on this. I think this is one of the best binder I ever received. Been on the board for 15 years. I think, Chris, you've done excellent jobs, particularly in this binder, the details you have put in with all the code and so on, and categorized in different buckets and so on. I think if any diligent board member, anybody wants to be, dig into this, you can really understand how money is spent. And later on, I'll make some comments as besides how it's spent, there's some what expectations that might, should come up. Also on this, I know Lindsay asked about Foundation A. This is remind me when I first joined the board, that was the first topic, Foundation A, because basically people complained the New York State budget, misused the funding, and the school is shortchanged, underfunded, and so on. In fact, it's unconstitutional to use some of the money for other things rather than for school. And the ruling from the court in 2007 says, well, we got to correct that. And that's how so-called Foundation A come about and started making corrections. I think later on, there's another litigation case by a group of people called New Yorkers for Students' Education Rights, and challenged, even though there were some funding, but the funding is not adequate. It's not fully funded, In fact, we are still probably not fully funded. I don't know what the definition of fully funded exactly is, but certainly we are increasing now. We have now up to 15% in our budget that comes from Foundation A, which is a good thing. But that time at around 2007, later up to 2012, that few years, the Foundation A was sort of a in flux, people fighting for it and so on. That court case ruled the Foundation A should be fully funded by 2024. And that's why now our governor, Shucho, whatever, is it pronounced Shucho?
Hochul.
Oh, Hochul, sorry. Governor now is funding more on Foundation A. For example, $125 million was allocated for PK, okay, which is a good thing, and certainly we welcome that. And another $200 million is funding for two things. They called pre-college credits or pre-college high school. That is, allow high school students to take university courses, get credits, so that they can get a head start for, for students that on a faster track. The other one is called Pathway, to technology, whatever these programs, okay, are supposed to be funded by the Foundation A money and so on. So the money is increasing, certainly is good, okay, and every school has a different sort of needs, depends on the community and depends on the sort of student body and so on. Hopefully we all know how to use them wisely so that our school system is better run, okay? So maybe later on I'll talk a little more about that. Just want to add it to you, that question that Lindsay asked. I think when 11% increase to 15% is pretty significant.
Yeah, for
and we
sure.
certainly, helped us for doing more things. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ife. So I believe we have moved to the committee liaison reports. If any of our committee liaisons would like to share, I know that several of you have been engaged in some work, trying to make eye contact.
Well, we had our CWAC committee meeting, was it last, I guess?
For those of us who are
Sorry,
uninitiated.
the Social Emotional Wellness Advisory Committee.
Thank
We've
you.
also talked about maybe changing the acronym. Met recently, I think it was last week, but it's all becoming a blur now. And we discussed the executive functioning investment that we're making at all levels, and how investing in professional development for the teachers and being able to support executive functioning skills to all students at all different levels, in a multi-tier system, and how important executive functioning skills are for all kids in any way, shape, or form, and any different aspects of life, starting from infancy on, to be honest. So I was really happy to see that we're making this commitment going forward to support the executive functioning skills across all levels. And the co-vitality results will come out too for grades 5 through 12, I guess. They just took them again recently, so that'll be going forward.
Anyone else?
Policy committee met, I think, since our last meeting, and that's pretty straightforward. It's just the policies that are up here. They had some minor changes, and that was all explained in the materials we had to review. West Putt, I don't really have anything. Just keep an eye on your emails, because you should be getting weekly updates that just have general budget information for the for all the districts in the county, and then also the at a glance that has a lot of demographic information about different districts if you're interested in that, looking at where Somers is and with other districts.
Thank you. Anyone else? Communication? No? All right. So we are in receipt of the financial reports. We accept the warrant report, statement of revenues, treasurer's report, and we move to the minutes. Be it resolved that the Board of Education, having received copies of minutes of the the meeting of 3/21, hereby approves the same motion.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. All right, board action. So we are at personnel consent agenda. Be it resolved that the Board of Education, upon recommendation of the superintendent of schools, hereby approves the attached personnel agenda. Motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? You didn't want to...
Just one piece in there, we have our building principal identified at the intermediate school.
I'm so sorry, Ray.
No, it's right. Miss Linda Belger. And so we've are fortunate to have her. I've been in the district for, I think, 21 years. And so the other piece is that she will now be in earnest working with her building team to identify her replacement at the AP. So just want to let you know that. So thank you.
Thank you.
Sure.
I try to rush past that.
No, I know. Thank you.
Congratulations, Ms. Belger.
Yes.
Sorry about that. Okay, but we have motion, so we are free to move along to the CSE CPSE. Be it resolved, the Board of Education, having received copies of recommendations of the meeting as listed on the attached memo, hereby approves the same motion.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Excellent. Business consent agenda. Be it resolved, the Board of Education, upon recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, hereby approves the attached business agenda. Motion?
So moved.
Second.
I think just the one item I wanted to highlight is the donation from the PTA of just under $60,000 for the outdoor classroom at Primrose. So just want to thank them for that.
Thank you.
Nice.
Thank you. Thank you.
Where was the slide on that in our presentation?
I should have had it in there.
Really should have had that in there. We should go back and do it again.
Bring it back.
All right. Excellent. Thank you. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Okay, the moment you've all been waiting for. Be it resolved that upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Board of Education of the Somers Central School District does hereby adopt the property tax report card and the budget for the 23-24 year in the amount of as presented here. Be it further resolved that the date of the public vote is on May 16th, 2023 from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. here at the Somers Middle School. Motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Excellent. Appointment of election inspectors. Be it resolved that upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, Board of Education of the Somers Central School District does hereby approve the appointments of the chairperson. Be it further resolved that the district clerk shall be authorized to fill any vacancies in these positions which may occur prior to the date of the vote. Motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Excellent. Stipulation of agreement. Be it resolved that the Board of Education authorizes and empowers the Superintendent of Schools to execute the stipulation dated 4/12/23 between Somers and the folks as presented here. Motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Okay, the last of the board actions around athletic mergers. Be it resolved that upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Board of Education of the Somers Central School District does hereby approve the team mergers listed below for the 2023-24 season as per the applications. We have the girls varsity swim, boys varsity swim, girls varsity gymnastics, varsity ski, and varsity modified wrestling. Motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? All right, so we move to the policies. Heidi had referenced previously that the policy committee had met. We have some policies for first reading. Be it resolved that upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Board of Education hereby accepts the following policies. 90-10 for equal employment opportunities, 90-20 for board staff communications, 91-25-1 for staff substance abuse, 92-30 professional staff recruiting, 92-40 for PT sub professional staff employment. Motion?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion from policy folks? Anything you want to lift for us to consider?
No, unless there's any particular questions.
No.
Okay.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? All right, so policies reviewed. These were policies that were reviewed on 3/27. Be it resolved that the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, Board of Education, having done a review of the board policies, hereby accepts the following policies to remain as is with no changes as presented here. Motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? All right. Policies suspended. Be it resolved that upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Board of Education hereby accepts the following policies for suspension as presented. Motion?
So moved.
Second.
And so this is typically in alignment to NISBA, right? So these are the policies that they would have typically suspended and removed. They're not necessary, redundant for whatever reason. Any questions?
Absolutely.
Yeah, as it says, like some of them, a lot of them were included within other policies, so they didn't need to be separate or,
So for clarity and consistency.
yeah.
Thank you. Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Thank you. All right, so we have moved to the second public comment. So any community members who have joined us this evening that have a comment that they would like to make to the board, just a reminder that no employees or students may be commented upon or identified by name or situation. Folks have 3 minutes per speaker. Please leave your name and your information at the podium so that we can be sure to address your questions or comments, rather, to the right folks.
Because of time constraints, I will try and summarize a parent's worst nightmare into 3 minutes. My name is Sarah Kaloris. My son AJ is 13 years old and has severe nonverbal autism and
I'm sorry,
intellectual
but pursuant to
disability.
policy, you cannot speak to specific personnel matters or student names.
I can't say my own son's name.
No, in fact, in
Can I just add, I just have a question about this, because last week when your husband got up and gave a speech, you didn't give this policy before he spoke.
So we can't comment for confidentiality reasons because we are under liability for FERPA. Our Board of Education can be held responsible. So we're asking that we please just refrain from using the names.
Okay, so my son is 13 years old and has severe nonverbal autism and intellectual disability, physical limitations, and on February 27th, he was abused by a bus monitor employed by Somers Central School District. When my son arrived home that day, we were asked to board the bus to remove him because he had thrown up. We noticed he was buckled into a seat wearing his vomit-covered jacket while sitting in a seat smeared with vomit. I immediately contacted the superintendent, principal, vice principals of the high school, head of transportation, head of special education, as well as my son's teacher to inquire about what had happened since my son is unable to tell us.
Pursuant to our policy, you cannot speak to specific personnel, students, or specific matters in public. I'm sorry, this is a public comment section. We are liable. This is not open for interpretation. So we cannot speak to specific, I'm reading you the law. I'm reading you legislation. Yeah. So you cannot reference specific personnel, students, or specific matters in public.
You should probably stop your meeting.
Sorry?
Probably pause your meeting.
So I think that we're going to have to just pause the meeting at this point. The concerns and questions were brought up publicly. Motion to return to public session.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Those abstained? All right, so the board has, the public is really here to make comments to the Board of Education, and the Board of Education has already been made fully aware of the particular situation and will not accept additional comments on the particular matter. According to our board policy 1230, the board will not permit in public session discussion involving individual district personnel or students. Persons wishing to discuss matters involving individual district personnel or students should and have already present their comments and or concerns to the superintendent during regular business hours. We will take no further comment on this topic. If we have other community members that wish to come up and share a comment with the Board of Education to the Board of Education, we invite you and encourage you to please do so now.
I live in this neighborhood and I want to comment on Board of Education. This is total disrespect to a parent, a community member, to a parent who went through absolutely horrifying story, and to everyone sitting here, regardless on which side of you. This is complete disrespect. I have no question because you don't deserve the questions from community.
Thank you for your comment. If we have any other board members who would like, or sorry, members of the community that wish to make a comment to the board, please.
So I have Jonathan Lyons. I have 3 kids in the district, separate from this. Mr. Haddam mentioned that there's 10%, I think, of the kids in the district participate in track.
That's probably a little light. It's probably
Light,
closer
so
to
it's more.
15. Yeah.
I think, accurately speaking, it's probably the sport that most kids participate in over
Yes.
any other sport in high school.
Yes.
I would just like to ask the board and the district to consider allocating more funds in next year's budget. There's a $7 million and that are being spent on various things, which is fine. I don't question. It's fine. But as having, seeing the track and field and how much is participating, how many kids are there, and how important it is, I would request that the board and the administration really consider allotting more money to improvements, whether it comes to high jump, whether it comes to mats, whether it comes to a barn that's permanent that can keep the rats out. You see these kids come out 23 years, 24 years in a row of winning and performing well. I really would ask that the district re-examine how much money they're allocating for track compared to other sports and a way to adjust the budget in the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Hi, my name is Erin Kovacs, and I have a student here in the district, obviously. I have a few concerns that I wanted to address the board. The first is about the recent survey that went out that was very intense. It spoke about suicide. Do you have suicidal tendencies? Asking middle school children if they ever have feelings that their life is worthless. Do they fight with their family members? A lot of real personal questions. I guess it falls under SEL. I did meet with a therapist who told me they would never administer that without an adult's permission. We were opted out of all surveys for my daughter. I want to know where legally that falls in place with the district, because when I officially opted out, everybody received the email and my daughter was forced to take the survey. And she was really upset about the questions when she came home. And she told me she learned about things on the survey that she wanted to know, do people really think like that? So I just need it to be known that you're teaching kids exactly what we don't want them to engage in. And by exposing children to surveys like this, I have no words. I have no words. And with that, another question I have is your budget. I hear a lot about a strong focus on fields, playgrounds, quick mention of teachers, some OT, some speech. There was no mention of any reading or math specialists. I'm very concerned about our decrease in scores, as well as where our ratings are in comparison to local schools. We are lower than Lakeland. We are way lower than Lakeland. When you go back years, we're lower than Yorktown. We're rated, I can't quote numbers now, but it was like something like 670, whereas Yorktown was like 62. We moved here from Yorktown 2 years ago, hoping for a better experience. I'm very concerned about a lot of great programs going on, and kudos there should be for kids to achieve when they're honors or when they have the ability. But what about the kids coming in with reading disabilities, dyslexia, learning disabilities, autism, special education students, whatever it may be? I stood at a high school meeting. There's not one program for a child that doesn't fall under your umbrella of above average. There's not one science class she can take that would interest her because she has to have someone in the room to help her. Why not come up with some programs that equity of education for all students? All of the students deserve an opportunity to learn and to excel in what they're interested in, and they deserve to stand and get the awards at these meetings. And another one I would like to know is, you didn't talk about any money going. I happen to be a reading specialist, and I'm very concerned working with somebody right now. There are not many people trained in many schools.
Just a reminder, we're at 3 minutes, so please go ahead and finish your comments.
Okay, very quickly. Dyslexia is becoming a very broad, umbrella, and many children are falling under it, but there are no trained, from what we're being told, people to meet those children with those needs. So we can't really shake your head no, because we've been fighting for 2 years now. So my point is, money needs to be allotted to other things other than fields if you're going to put a budget that high.
Thank you so much for your comment. Any other comments from the community?
really short. I'm just asking a question for the district. When will a district ever take accountability for their actions? Instead, the district runs and hides and prevents exposure to the public. Our children are suffering from teacher and student abuse. Parents are having issues finding help for their children caused by what's going on in our district. And I'm saddened by her story. It affected me as a parent. It should affect all of you, and everyone should know about it. Shame on you.
Thank you for your comment.
I had no intention on getting up, but
please state your name.
Kelly Krug. I have 2 kids in the district, 2 that are in college now. I had no intention on getting up, and I'm not talking about my kid. I'm actually talking about my 54-year-old sister who has Down syndrome, and she was in high school with me. She was probably not here, is out on Long Island. She was one of the first, I guess, mainstream set of kids going in, and mainstreamed into the high schools or into the schools, whatever. Anyway, the kids. Then I was with her. She's 14 months older than me. The kids treated her kind of normal. Some people made fun of her, whatever. It is what it is. It's part of growing up, in my opinion. The teachers and the people that kept her safe in the schools kept her safe. And her community and the special needs community is the most vulnerable of this district, of our community, of our town, of our state. And, whatever's going on, why the cameras got cut, it's wrong, and it's just wrong. And you need to do better. We need to do better. And if there's something going on in the schools and the person is not let go, it should be known as well. So I don't know. I don't even know what I added here, but I lived it growing up, and I can't believe this is happening in 2023. The kids are probably better behaved than some of the caregivers or student aides or whatever they're called, or whatever, I don't know. Anyway, I couldn't sit here. You guys walked out, and that's just not okay. So, whatever.
Excellent. Any other comments from the community to the board?
My name's Kim Grillo. I have spoken many times in the past. I don't like to get up and speak, but I don't know what's happened to this town. I have been here for over 17 years. It has changed dramatically. There are many people sitting in this room right now that have started in the beginning, and it has not changed 100% for the better. It saddens me more than anything what is going on. It is not acceptable. It is not acceptable, and I would never in a million years think that if we're going to teach our kids of anything, this is the teachable moment. I don't understand when this situation happened, how everyone did not bring everyone into a room, sit them down, and get the story and get it resolved then and there. That's what we teach our kids. And we're not teaching our kids right because the adults aren't doing it right. That's it. I have no words. My heart broke when she told me the story. It's heartbreaking. I can't even imagine that world. I don't know who we are anymore. I don't know where we're going with this district. This is a town we all love, and something is missing. Communication is missing. Teach our kids right and do the right thing. That's it. It should have been resolved day one when she made that call. Everyone should have gotten to the table and gotten her story and gotten everyone's story and have it resolved. And for anything, listen to her because her son can't speak. She's speaking for her son.
Getting
My name is Michelle Antoinette. Yeah, I've had 3 kids in this school district. My youngest right now is a sophomore. I've had a child that had an IEP. I had a child that walked to graduation with 5 ropes around her neck because of her intelligence. I have another daughter that is also on the intelligence side, that takes honors classes and will be taking all AP classes next year. Now, a few things. I think your embedded honors program is a joke. My daughter comes home and has to learn chemistry to be in the honors program on her
So
own.
again, I just need to remind you that we're not allowed to mention personnel
What
individually.
personnel did I mention?
You're speaking about the specific course, and you're speaking about your daughter. We're
Okay,
talking about your
the course
daughter's
is not a
situation.
name. It's embedded
situation. So this is not a discourse. This is. Okay, so listen, so this is our board meeting, and we have certain rules that we need to follow here. This is a public-facing board meeting. This is a meeting of us. We are the board, right? We invite the public to give a comment. If we cannot follow the rules and the protocol, Robert's rules for a board meeting, then we will have to end this meeting. That is what is going to have to happen now. So we have told you this. You cannot comment on these types of matters in a public session. This violates our policy. This violates FERPA, which is law, okay? This is
That's
not a
fine,
discourse. That's fine. You can
not
ask those
her
questions
daughter.
about.
Not her daughter.
I'm not having a dialogue with you. I'm suggesting that you are not allowed to be talking about specific situations. If you want to make a comment to the board about a specific program, please share your comment with the board. We cannot have conversations about situations.
Is a joke.
Thank you for your comment.
Okay? And my second comment is that I cannot believe that you left for 5 minutes to call the police to have them out in the hallway, that you're afraid of this crowd.
Thank you for your comment. Again, you are using individuals by name, so I need to ask you to please find your way from the podium. Thank you. Wow. Any other comments that are not situational that would like to be raised to the board? All right, so we're going to move to the board comment section. Trustees, I leave it to you.
I have to go first.
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to say that we went to, this is a while ago now since we haven't had a meeting in a while. We had the walkthrough through the middle school for the middle years program, which was great to see the kids engaged at all levels. It was great to see how invested the kids were in the subject matters, making connections, taking ownership of the rubric. I'm also just going to make a comment on reading through the budget document. I know everything wasn't in Chris's presentation, but there are reading and math specialists at each of the schools. Primrose has 3 reading teachers and 2 IS teachers. SIS has 4.4 AIS teachers, 1 enrichment teacher. SMS has 13 special education teachers, and they're changing the staff to include the reading specialists at SMS campus next year. And I know we're also investing further onto the Orton Gillingham reading program to get further training for kids who need it and have it at all 4 schools. So I just think it's important because I actually took the time to read through the binder that Chris put together, and I really appreciated it. It gave me a lot of insight, and I hope everyone does the same before the budget gets voted on in May.
And not for nothing, all of those were responsive to the needs of the community for specific reading and math specialists.
That's right.
So again, it was more than just that. Yeah, thank you. We are done with board comment. I'm so sorry. Thank you. What's up, Nick?
Actually, so I had a quick question first, though. The on the surveys, my kid did come home on the surveys. Where are we? Who's creating those surveys? Is that like a New York State thing or something we're creating?
Sorry, which surveys are you talking
These
about?
student
Survey,
surveys.
the public comment.
I'd have to look and see exactly what survey that was mentioned there.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
It
don't
was
know off the top of
Well,
my
no, it was
head.
one I know my kid mentioned. It was like last week or 2 weeks ago or something like that.
Yeah, but
they
classroom
have the
teachers do surveys, buildings do,
Social emotional well
don't
stuff.
know. The co-vitality one, that one is one that is from the Social Emotional Wellness Committee that we've reviewed question by question, time and time again, so that's a part.
That's anonymous, though, right?
Yep. And, well, it's anonymous. No other student information is shared out with anybody else, so you have the information on the student. So if you recall, then in the fall and in the spring, those students were, in that particular survey, were asked to the families, if you don't want your child to participate in the survey, then don't. It's probably about 3/4 of the students who end up taking it, maybe a quarter don't. Those are really round, rough numbers of the parents say, like, I'd rather not do that, and that's kind of where that resides.
Yep. Okay. Then you answered the dyslexia stuff. No, I mean, look, good budget. I mean, it's good to show the amount that we're underneath the inflationary cap and all that. So great presentation. I like the how you put that together as far as all the different programs you have. Again, the energy program and how you've saved the money on that. So that's good.
Okay. I commented on the foundation aid before that relates to the budget, but I want to continue on that. I think our budget is good, although it is the highest increase in percentage ever presented. Okay, 5.2%. It's a lot, but considering the inflation situation we have, I don't think we have any other choice. I think Chris did a good job in detailing all the money, resource coming from, where it goes, and so on. And I think the budget tells us a few things we are focusing on. We certainly are trying to improve our infrastructure and trying to improve our environment for the students. And also, secondly, I also noticed we do invest a lot in our teachers, okay, teacher development. And that's important because ultimately students need teachers to teach them and to make them achieve. And also there are various, many of these curricular investments that we can go through, actually you can find in the budget. But I think we do leave something out, which is not Chris's, it's not your fault. The budget cannot tell that. It's the board and superintendent and the future meetings can tell. Is what does the budget bring to us? Where is our students going? A couple of comments from public. Some may not be accurate. Some may be emotional. We are not as good as this school, not as good as that, and so on and so forth. These are very general comments. The reason we have these comments is because we don't have specific data, information, so that people know exactly where we stand, exactly how our students performing before COVID, after COVID. Yes, we have some problem through the COVID period. Now we are trying to catch up. So what I hope when the budget process is over and we expect the community will continue to support us and to support the budget, then what's left for us to do is to collect the data, collect the performance of the students. The students, the ultimate, our goal, our objective to educate them. So whatever money we spend is for that purpose. So I think from now on, I hope the focus really is on to show that, to show the students that can perform, can improve, and we will be better year after year, okay? So I think tonight's this kind of a public disruption, I consider it as emotional. In my tenure on the board, I experienced several times this type of situation. And at the end, it all go away because they are not really substantial. This community doesn't really have real issues that we cannot, deal with as adults, sit down, understand, and find solutions. So I hope that we will move on. And I finally want to thank Lindsay and Mary Rose not here for their service. And I noticed that the coming election, there will be 4 new candidates, and they're not running, which actually makes me feel sad, because when people leaving the board out of frustration is not what we want. Really, we want people to serve in public, position, or like this kind of a thankless position. Really is because their passion for education, for the kids, for the community, not confrontational. There's no eggs to grind here, particularly in incidents, particular case, particular employee, particular student. No, the school board sits above that, and we want to look at the bigger picture. We want to understand the bigger issues. We want to really make sure our money is well spent. And I really appreciate that, Lindsay has worked very hard, but I know many people sometimes very critical of her, of course, sometimes critical of me as well, but I think that's fine. But at the end, we should look at what is the real purpose, what's the real objective for serving the board or for coming to a board meeting is for the students, okay? That's my comment. Hopefully, we'll move forward with excellence.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you to everybody who hung in there through the duration of a long meeting and stayed for the end. I really want to thank, I was glad to see today that we officially have 4 candidates for Board of Ed. Kudos to you brave souls. You've got big shoes to fill, because Lindsay and Mary Rose have been, great on our board and have brought a lot of expertise and a lot of insight and a lot of good reflection and challenging questions. And so it's going to be big shoes to fill. So I'm really glad to see that it's a contested election, that people will have choices. And so I encourage the public, I'm sure over the next month, there's going to be opportunities to get to know about the candidates and why they're running and what they're bringing to the table and what their backgrounds are. And so just encouraging everybody to understand the value of your Board of Ed members and make sure that you make an informed decision when you're voting. And best of luck to all 4 candidates. And just thank you so much for everything that you put together in here for the budget. There's a lot in there, and I hope the community members that are concerned about our, funding for reading and stuff, what we gave in the presentation is a broad overview and all the details on money that's allocated for particular things and programs and things that are new and added. And reading, and just from what we've had our meetings this year, reading has gotten a lot of attention and training this year. So I know you've been responsive, and that's one thing I've seen over the time that I've been on the board. I remember even from early on in the board, as new programs came into play in response to test scores and students' performance. So, I've seen that response, and know it will continue. So, thank you.
Well, you took all the things I was going to say. Sorry. What's on my heart right now is that today is Yom HaShoah, which I don't know if you're aware is the Day of Remembrance for the Holocaust. And it's like a very, obviously, as you can tell. Anyway, so this is what's been on my heart today as we've been experiencing this. So I want to apologize to all of you who are still here with us right now, who were here to experience what happened. It was unacceptable, and I'm so sorry, and I apologize on behalf of the poor behavior of some. And look, I think there was one comment that I know, public comment is for sharing something with the board. And it's really hard for us when we hear things that are just patently false, because we can't engage in dialogue, right? Like, this is our time right now as a board to sort of give our comments. Amanda shared and Heidi shared also the significant amount of funding which is going into the reading program, specifically because we have identified a need. So to say that there is not because of one overview meeting is to have missed the entire year of meetings and to not have read through the entirety of the budget. And so I apologize if that was not made clear to you all, that that is exactly what is being funded for our children in our schools in response to what our kids need, right? A comment that was made about why doesn't everybody get into a room and resolve it right there together? Just not that anyone needs elaboration, but a Board of Education is our meeting that we have in public for the public to hear the things that we're discussing. And I know we've said this a million times, but the point is that each of these matters has been raised ad nauseum to the board, and we have been fully briefed on all of these matters. So when we ask folks to please refrain from sharing certain comments, I just want everyone who's here, as I alluded to last time, to know that the board is typically aware of all of these matters in greater detail than than we can share. So anyhow, I also wanted to say that last Friday was a beautiful event at the Engelbrook Golf Course that was run by the SCF, where they had the Hall of Fame Awards. And several of you I see in the audience were there, thank you, to celebrate and to honor and to recognize some truly stellar members of our community. And one of those members, Ms. Doreen Stoker, is a special educator at the high school who has done extraordinary things. And I knew she was extraordinary from years of just being here and knowing her and just seeing her in action. But my goodness, to hear her brief CV and to know that this is a human who is in service of all of our children here in this district was just extraordinary. And what an honor and a gift to have somebody so spectacular. Mary Rose was there with me, and it was really a special evening. They also honored Jeff Feldman, who has lived in the district, as well as Dominic Veltri, who I've not had the pleasure of meeting. Jeff Feldman I've worked with for years on SEF, as another extraordinary human being who's done great work for the district. So there's so many amazing things happening here, and I'm really honored to be here with you. Apologies if I overspoke just now, but I felt obligated to share what was on my heart. I appreciate you staying here, and again, I apologize to the community for experiencing this. Dr. Blanche.
Do you want to say that? I was going to say, if you want to say it?
Which one?
Next Thursday, the arts.
Oh, yes. Oh,
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Go ahead. You can.
No, you got it. It's good.
All right. So I get to end on a high note then. Thank you. That next Thursday we have the Arts Festival from 7 to 9 at the high school. Please join us. There are going to be some beautiful pieces of artwork from students whose names are listed here, including a 2nd grader, a 5th grader, an 8th grader, 12th grader, many more. What did I miss?
No, just
that's what's on the card, but there's going to be.
Yeah.
Oh, and that's right, that they made the card.
Yeah. Thank you.
Flustered.
Sure. No, it's good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oof. Really, we heard from the students tonight and things like that. So he had mentioned the survey that we were talking about, the co-vitality survey. So that's the piece that we're talking about, and he had mentioned also as well as the counseling team is working to see to work with families and giving them feedback on those surveys, and particular students who maybe have said, boy, I may be struggling a little bit. So there's a reach out there from our mental wellness team that's happening there and stuff. You had mentioned a little bit before, but we do have a full edition of an Orton Gillingham teacher who will be supporting this campus between SAS and the middle school. It's a matter of exactly where the students are at the end of the year and where those resources will be there, but it's a full FTE that will be supporting this campus next year, starting in the fall, with the Orton Gillingham program there. So again, that is a piece that is in response to certainly things we've seen come out of the COVID impact as well. And then the aligned science of reading training that we have been working with our teachers, and particularly the elementary grade levels. And then our new director of learning at the elementary and Claire, our secondary, have been working together, getting a K-8 team together to look at the K-8 reading piece. It just is a part that we have to really think a little bit differently than perhaps we have historically at a middle school level, because our students are, not in the place where we typically may be. So we're investing in them to making sure they can support student learners. So from a classroom level of a tier 1 kind of a support for everybody, tier 2 where we may have some students who need smaller groups, as you mentioned, the AIS supports and things, and or like a tier 3, adding in a full FTE source over here to provide that really specific, intensive program like an Orton Gillingham and things. So that's kind of our adjustment to the current realities as we move forward with that one. So I just thought I'd kind of finish on that piece, because it is a significant investment of our professional learnings team. Already I think met once, if not twice, to look at the K-8 structure at the elementary piece. They'll spend some summer curriculum work looking at that. And then the other piece I thought I mentioned too is just rankings are what rankings are. I was interested that I'm not sure if what we heard either this evening was regarded to the U.S. News World Report. You may happen to know that Harvard and Yale just decided we're not going to go to that. They have found significant fallacies as far as the calculations and the formula that they have decided. They are a private institution, so they can choose to do that. We do not. As I've spoken before, and I know our learning office has before, there's a couple of pieces in there. For example, we had a significant amount of students who were in 8th grade taking either earth science and or math, and those numbers are not included at a high school level because they were never there. So that's a piece that definitely impacts us in a negative rating area. You look at all the other content areas, those align very well. I would also say that we are not looking for necessarily a student who maybe scores a 5 on an IB or a 7 on an IB or an AP and getting a 5. What we've spoken about before at this very table is the experience for a child to go through with supports if needed to find that higher level kind of cognitive level piece. They get a 2, they get a 3. They are far better off for it. That's not my research, it's decades of research that shows that. So we have increased significantly the percentage of our children are taking high level coursework, as well as the high school offers programs like Project Lead the Way, which is a dual credit bearing experience for kids as well in there. Pre-engineering is inside of there, biomedical science is inside of there. So sit down like we did in the fall a little bit when the initial part here, looking at those numbers, looking at those specific pieces. There is no one direct comparison to one or the other. We do right now currently have the highest number of IB and AP courses that are offered. We are proud of our breadth, and we're also proud of the depth that can provide as well to the children. We do have lots of choices for our kids, all along where they are on the learning continuum. And I am frankly very, very proud of our learning office and our administration at the high school, and in particular our teaching staff. The ability to go into the embedded honors program, we heard a little bit about this evening, has increased our percentage of children with honors distinction, and is in that public report you saw before as well. Looking at AP scores, our AP scores, whilst they have increased significantly, some almost twofold, there has not been a noticeable decline in student performance. So we have more children testing than ever before, taking AP or IB and performing at relatively the same level. So I would commend our faculty for that. Teachers, administrative support team, the funding from the community to help make those trainings happen, because it's time, it's energy to get that learning. We spend a lot of time in the summertime, but our faculty, I'm proud of, without a doubt, of how they've done it, and they did this during and coming out of a worldwide pandemic. So kudos to our faculty. So thank you.
Dr. Blanchard.
I want to one thing too. I just wanted to make. No, I know, but
I'm just kidding.
But I had meant to acknowledge the Forward and Excellence reports that we have, the flip books that are linked to the website now. I want to thank you very much for providing that information and making it so publicly available. And anybody that hasn't looked at this on the website yet, it's right there on the front. When you're questioning how our school is performing, like, all the data is laid out there. And when you're looking to these ranking things, they have very particular things that they look at and that they're using for comparisons. And the data, when I've looked at where is the source from, if you really dig into it, they're still using 2018 data for a lot of things. So we've changed a lot since 2018 in this district too. So who knows where we would be if they actually finally catch up with information. But I appreciate that right there we can go and we can actually see our own district's information in all of our different highlights.
Okay, Dr. Blanchard, your talk reminded me, I think everybody probably received the same email I received. There's a company offer a program called IB Leadership in the summer, and they claim they have Harvard mentors teaching these course, a short course in the summer. You aware? Anybody received this?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right? So I want you to sort of check that out. I think it sounds like it matches our IB program, and it's a summer short program that can be beneficial to our students. Okay, now you reminded me to. Yeah.
Thank you, Board.
Thank you. Go ahead.
No, I'm done.
Sure? Yeah. Anything else? All right. All right, folks, be it resolved that this regular meeting of the Board of Education be adjourned. Motion?
So move.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. Thank you. Thank you, folks.